It's time to cross the pond. Hi, I'm Kent, and welcome to Turn a Wood Bowl. If you are subscribed to my email list, you know that you get wood bowl turning tips every week, and occasionally you get invited to special opportunities. Well, a while back, I sent one of those opportunities out to everybody to join me in England. Yeah, that's right. We did a wood bowl turning tour of England. Now, I was invited by Bill Motley, who is Canadian based, and he wanted me to join him along with others to go with them to England. And he had this really great trip planned out with all sorts of woodworking and wood turning themed locations throughout England, ending up at the Wizardry of Wood turning in London, which was spectacular. And I'm going to share all of this with you. So let's jump right in and head across the pond.
We started our flight in Toronto, and after about 7 hours, we had the River Thames in sight, and we were landing in Heathrow Airport. From there, we met our coach and our driver, Zach, who would be with us the whole time. He's going to play a hero in this. You'll see more from Zach as we go. We headed west from Heathrow. I had no idea that Stonehenge was visible from the highway. Super cool. We had a fabulous weather day. Big puffy clouds and some sunlight as well. Actually, beautiful, beautiful sight. It was incredible to see this. We were a little bit jet lagged, but it was nice to get out and be in such a beautiful spot. From there, we headed a little bit farther east to Taunton, and we stayed in the Taunton Castle. This is a renovated castle that's been turned into a hotel. We spent the night there, had a great evening, and the next morning we went to Yandles. Yandles is, I don't even know how to describe this. It's a mix of so many different things. There's a mill, there's lumber, there are tools, there's crafts, there's a cafe. They've got everything going on here. It's actually pretty brilliant. They have all kinds of great tools. They have, of course, the full Robert Sorby line. And I found this bowl gouge set from Robert Sorby that looked pretty nice. There's actually 2 gouges and then a scraper. It's a really nice little set. We went from the tool shop into the lumberyard, and they have bowl blanks by the 1,000. And it was very appealing. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. All of this is kiln dried. They don't actually process the wood initially themselves. They purchase the wood kiln dried, and then they process it into bowl blanks and other pieces of lumber that are for sale. They also have a pretty brilliant business strategy here. While the wood turning and tools are predominantly male driven, they also have a craft shop here that is designed for the ladies, and it helps balance things out, both with the amount of craft money spent in the house as well as making everybody happy. So it's kind of a neat little balance. And then on top of that, they also have a shop where artisans and people that are making different things can actually sell their wares, which is pretty nice. But the amount of lumber that they have on hand in all the different varieties is spectacular. They took us over to their mill, showed us how they process all this. Now again, they're purchasing all of this kiln dried already. They're not doing any of the initial cutting or drying on the premises, but they're taking existing lumber and processing it down to particular sizes for various products. We also got to see in the corner where they're making their bowl blanks. It's a really big bandsaw here. And this gentleman is waxing all of the end grain on these blanks, getting them ready to be put on the shelf and turned into bowls sometime soon. So it's always fun seeing bowl blanks being produced. From there, we headed south. Now, the English countryside is absolutely beautiful. Everybody that mentioned going to England always recommends that if you go to London, make sure you get out the countryside. And wow, did we see the countryside. It was absolutely beautiful. We stopped by to visit Colin Way, and he was kind enough to offer us a little demo. He was showing us the skew chisel and how he uses it, how he shapes it, and what can be done with the skew chisel. It's actually pretty fun. So what he's doing here is a quick little Christmas tree demonstration using the skew chisel. And the biggest thing to remember with the skew chisel is you have to keep bevel contact at all time. And without bevel contact, that's where you get the nasty catches. It's pretty much that simple. You can see that bevel is in full contact. The other thing is that the bottom portion of the skew is what's doing all of the work. You really don't want to get up into the top portion. So what he's doing here is he's just using the skew chisel. This is going to be a comparison. We're going to do this one first. The skew chisel, he's using the back corner to do a back cut, which is taking those grains and setting them upright. It's going to give this piece or this little Christmas tree a fuzzy appearance. He's going to get right into that little tip there. All right, so you can see what it's doing there. It looks good. It's a little bit rough. He had another tool that was interesting. It was very specifically designed for this task. Now he's taking another piece with the skew again and preparing that. But instead, this time he's using this special hook tool. And if you watch, there's a small little hook that's a rounded, sharpened corner at the bottom edge of this. And he's simply pulling back those shavings using this tool. And instead of just knocking all of those grains up like the previous technique, this is actually nicely cutting them and cleanly rolling them over. So it's going to have a little bit nicer appearance versus just using the skew chisel. And if you want to learn about this tool, get in touch with Colin, and I'll put his information in the description of this video. There you can see how those are all curled over versus just pushed out with the skew chisel initially. We got a nice photo with Colin before we headed on to our next stop. And our next stop is Lyme Regis. Lyme Regis is a beach community on the English Channel, and this was Zach making a super tight corner with a 42-foot long bus, and he did it quite smoothly. It's very narrow, old streets here that it was pretty tricky to do, but he did that pretty well, actually. Lots and lots of pebbles on the beach. And again, we would have this cloud area, and then it would break, and we get sun, and you could get a sense of what this would be like in the summertime. It's actually kind of nice. It wasn't crowded. I don't know what they call these little beach sheds or houses or what they are, but they're pretty cool and colorful. It's nice to get down and see the water. Just enjoy the last bit of the day here. From there, we headed back to our hotel, and the next day, we got to go visit the farmer's dog. If you've seen the Clarkson's farm, then you know about the Diddley Squat farm, and you know exactly where we are. And if you don't know about it, it's worth checking out, but it's pretty entertaining. But this is the Farmer's Dog restaurant, and they also have shops there for the Diddley Squat farm. It's quite hopping. There's a lot of people come to visit. Inside, they're selling produce and all sorts of goodies. They've got a restaurant going on in here as well. Got various novelties you can bring home with you, plus all the meats and everything that's coming from their farm and other farms. I hope I'm not looking at Pepper here. cheeses and milks, everything that they produce and that's produced locally. The cow juice vending machine, gotta love that. And there's the Farmer's Dog restaurant. Nice line there. If you watch the show, you notice they added the frame at the bottom of this. It's actually that way. We had to scrape some of the Farmer's Dog off our feet before we could get back on the bus. We headed down to Chadlington. It's beautiful fall. And we had to drive by the Diddley Squat Farm. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the bus in, and we were running out of time. So we weren't able to spend any time there. That was kind of a disappointment. But we made our way to Chesterfield and the Ringwood Hall. That's where we spent the next few days. And this beautiful grounds here. They had all sorts of just amazing little nature walks and gardens and things. It was really, really a beautiful place to stay. The following day, we headed east and we went to Ashley Iles Tool. I don't know if you saw that sign, but we actually went through the Sherwood Forest. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So on our way over there, Ashley Isle is a very unassuming shop. It's basically a shop on this dinky little lane that Zach managed to get the bus backed into, and he backed all the way down the lane, and we made it to the Ashley Isle Tool Shop. When we got there, we were greeted by John and Sarah, and Sarah was so nice to get us some tea and coffee to help us warm up. It was a little bit chilly that morning. And then upstairs, John showed us a little bit about the history of Ashley Isles. And then we headed back downstairs to see the shop and to see how tools are made. Now, Ashley Isle makes all sorts of different tools, not just turning tools. They make carving tools and all sorts of different things. And they're hands-on enough that they could make custom tools as well. I'm going to put a link to the Ashley Isles website in the description below this video. So you're going to want to check that out. So John's showing us here how each of the tools is heated and then shaped. Now this is a rough shaping. Keep in mind, we're basically taking a piece of raw steel and converting it into roughly the shape of the finished tool. But what has to take place after this is grinding and then sharpening. So using the trip hammer here, he's able to get the steel quickly shaped into the shape necessary for each particular tool. Now, there's just a flat surface here, so he can basically make a whole variety of different shapes of that. But they also use dies, and I'll show you those dies in just a second. John's demonstrating the big trip hammer, which he admitted he's not really fond of that much because it is massive. He's taking a piece of raw steel here as a demonstration. It's not even heated, and he just basically just smashed the life out of it. Got it thin enough that it would fold over in the air. Talk about a specialized anvil. Now here are those dies I was mentioning. So there's positive and negative sides, so they can quickly shape the carving tools and some of the turning tools. And here you can see the rough blanks. Now what needs to happen next is the grinding, which is going to further refine the shape of those tools. And this is the grinding wheel that John sits at and shapes these tools into their final appearance. You can see that hood in the back. It is literally caked on with shavings of steel. Each tool is taken in here and cleaned and final shaped using this grinding wheel. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There you can see up on top of that hood, those shavings just caked on there from years of use. Here he's beveling the tool. Now this is not final sharpening. This is just grinding and shaping. That would also go over to the belt and be final sharpened. Now here he's showing us how he puts the handles on. Everybody in the group bought tools. We all got different tools, different things, and we'd pick out the metal part of the tool and he'd put handles on for us right there. It was quite a fun afternoon and a great experience visiting the Ashley Isle Tool Company. From there, we're back on the bus and heading back to Chesterfield. The next day, we went to the Kelham Museum. This is a steel museum that basically has the largest collections of anything and everything made of steel from Sheffield. Sheffield is the steel capital of England. Everything metal is made in Sheffield, essentially. And as you know, there's a lot of wood turning tools there as well. Now, this is a spill plane. This is so weird. It is so cool. It is an antique, obviously, but it makes these curly-cued pointed shavings, and these are designed to transfer fire from a hearth to candles. So back in the day, you would take that and you would light the end of it and then bring it around the room and light all your candles. Here are miniature scissors that have been manufactured. They're just anything and everything with steel has been made in Sheffield. And then the really cool thing there is they have one of, if not the largest, steam engine in the world at this museum. This is a 12,000 horsepower steam engine that they actually run still. And we got to watch a demonstration of this in action. Takes a little while to get going. Now, imagine this. That steam engine would power the entire steel mill. So from that flywheel to the right, there would be drive shafts and pulleys that would go through floors and multiple levels in the factory, and it would drive other axles. And from those, machines would have pulleys that would come down to them. This one machine could run an entire factory of workers and milling process. It's pretty amazing this is still in operation. It's fascinating to think about power and energy and how essential it is for manufacturing. And then we went to Shepherd's Wheel. Shepherd's Wheel is also a steel production facility, but it's from the 1400s. This has been operating from the 1400s till about the 1700s. It's hard to even imagine. So the river was diverted to create this dam. You can see how still the water is. It's going through this box, and on the other side of that box is the water wheel. All of that energy from the water is being transferred into that wheel and down into this axle. And that axle goes into the grinding station. That's the other side of the wall. You can see all of the different mechanisms coming off of that one rotation. And guess what? The day before we saw John grinding that steel and shaping it. That's exactly what they do or did here. They would shape the steel tools that were made from the iron ore in Sheffield using a mill like this. Now, all up and down the rivers, these mills were installed to utilize the power of the water. And this is amazing. This is the throttle. If you look up there, that steel rod is controlling the gate that controls how much water goes through. So you can actually control the speed of this mill just by moving this lever. It's pretty stunning. It's pretty stunning that this still works. Again, this was operating in the mid 1400s up into the 1700s. That's when this was in use. So this whole gear mechanism is running this grinding room, but under the floor, there's a drive shaft that goes through the wall into an adjacent room. And this adjacent room is more of a finishing shop where there you can see the drive shaft coming through the wall. These are slightly smaller stations with sharpening wheels and also grinding stones. So you could have a dozen people working here, sharpening knives, shaping them, sharpening them. There you can see the blanks where they would take a piece and then bring it up to the wheel, although that wheel's looking a little wobbly right now. But that is what was done with this using the power of water. So we've seen water and steam power, and of course now we have electric powered machines. But you can see how it was done over 600 years ago. Pretty astounding. On the way back through Chesterfield, we got to stop at the Twisted Steeple. Now, there's many theories of how this steeple got twisted. One of them is that the plague that hit in the 1600s wiped out many of the craftsmen, and the people that built the steeple weren't aware of how green wood moves. That's one theory. Who knows why it's actually that way. The next day we had to go to Lower Benefield, and somehow we got on this route that put this 42-foot long bus down this road that was about 12 feet wide, and Zach actually got us in there somehow. It took a little while, but we got through there. In the town of Lower Benefield, we met our group. We had a group of people that met us there at the town hall, and we really didn't know what to expect. There were a bunch of turners there, and I got to meet Patrick. Patrick's actually a viewer, and he had no idea I was going to be there. He recognized me immediately from YouTube, which was as surprising for him as it was for me. We got to talk to a whole bunch of the local turners and see some of the things that they did, and then they provided us with lunch. It was just an outstanding day. Mike is the owner of MacTimbers, and he's telling us about bog oak wood here. This dark wood that you're seeing, that vase right there, is oak that has been underground in the bogs for thousands of years, and there's ways of them finding this. There's another one. This is a monkey puzzle. This is a really cool piece. They let me demo on their lathe there, so I got to put a piece of elm on the lathe and do a quick demonstration for everybody. It was actually a lot of fun. It's a little different environment having a bunch of phones pointed at me while I'm turning, but it was a really good time. Zach had some fun too. Zach had been driving us around on the bus, and he really had no idea what in the world we were doing. It was kind of fun for him to actually see what we do as far as wood turners, demonstrating why we get kickbacks there. That was kind of a fun one to share with everybody. Yeah, so Zach had no idea really what we were doing, and it was kind of fun for him to see this demonstration. So after this, he was like, okay, I kind of get this now. This is pretty cool. good for getting a catch. But if you go slow, it's okay. And what I want to do is I got to close the gouge at the very end. It's always fun turning with a group of people. Right here, and then I'm going to go really, really slow. And just let the gouge cut that. So we turned it around. Now they only had a large chuck, and I didn't want the base to be as large as that. The nice thing about that is you get a lot of support from the larger chuck, but you can take that foot down and reshape it and make it smaller or whatever size you'd like. And there's the final piece. If you're in central England and you're looking for some good wood to turn, check out MacTimbers. They don't ship. You got to go to them. We all got together for a group photo before we got on the road and drove to London. Zach got us all the way to the door of the hotel. We're staying right in front of St. Paul's, straight ahead. We got our things to our room, and then we all headed over to the ye old Cheshire pub for dinner, where we had fish and chips and a variety of other things. Actually, the food in England was actually really, really good. The next day, we started off our adventure with Wizardry in Woodturning. And what was really nice is they have stewards that actually guide you around, show you where everything is, and explain all of the background. They can answer any questions. It's actually really, really nice. And this was being held in the Plasterers Hall, which is kind of like a organization for the plaster trade or plastering trade. This is a cool project. This is a project where everybody gets the same wood, sized blank and same species, and then everybody creates whatever they want, and you get to see all the different things that come from everybody's imagination using just that one blank. It was really nice to be able to talk to a bunch of different folks there, and these bowls were absolutely stunning. The shapes of these were just spectacular. Now, this is what I was telling you about Plasterers Hall. This is all plaster work, and it's kind of a showcase for the Plasterers Guild or Society. I'm not sure what they call that exactly. There were a variety of different turners that were showcasing their work, that had it on display that you can go around and talk with. They had a rose engine here on display as well, which is pretty cool to see the different patterning they can do. They have the Society of Ornamental Turners in England. And here this gentleman's explaining to me exactly how they do the process of the spheres inside of spheres. And you can see the different tools that are used. Each one of these cutters goes into a certain depth to make each of the different passes. And when you've done that, you end up with a object that looks like this. I don't know how in the world they're sanding inside there, but it's pretty spectacular. These are also ornamental turnings. Unbelievable. They also have historic artifacts of wood and things that have been turned on display. It's quite the show. There's a ton to see here. Lots of people, lots of good folks to chat with. It's very inspiring to see all the different turnings in that. Here is an ornamental piece, and on top of this, that is smaller than an inch, that sphere, and there's at least 2 other spheres inside that. Crazy. I really like this piece. I have no idea how they're carving it like that. This one's really cool too. Then I got to meet Amy Leake. She has her pole lathe there and is demonstrating live. Now, this is considered bodgering in England, and this is done with green wood, and this has been going on for hundreds of years. So there is a whole organization of people that still do this. They take their lathes out into the woods and turn. It's really cool. It's absolutely fascinating to see this live. I was really thrilled she was there. I actually bought a bowl from her. So as the Wizardry and Woodturning wound down, so did our group tour. The majority of the group left and headed back home. My wife and I stayed for several days longer to see the sights and try not to get hit by traffic in London. They still haven't figured out which side of the road to drive. We did many of the very typical touristy things, like watching the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. We visited the National Gallery. Most of these museums were actually free and easy to access. Amazing artwork there. And the facilities alone are beautiful as well. We crossed the Millennial Bridge, the footbridge that goes across the River Thames by St. Paul's. This is the view from Tate Modern. Absolutely gorgeous. And the weather would go on and off. Rainy, sunny, back and forth. But it was fine. It was definitely Britain. Now, you're looking at Elizabeth Tower here. This is one of the things that most people don't know, and I learned. That is not Big Ben. Big Ben is the bell inside that clock. We also got to go to the Royal Observatory. I really wanted to go here. Walking on the Greenwich Mean Time line. To my right is the Western Hemisphere. To the left is the Eastern Hemisphere. Pretty amazing. The big reason I wanted to go here is to see the Harrison clocks. There is a carpenter. By trade, he was a carpenter. John Harrison made these clocks in the 1700s to solve the longitude problem. It's absolutely stunning story, and the craftsmanship of this is incredible. There's a book about this. You want to check this out if this is even remotely interesting to you. I think you'll love this book and this whole story about how these were created. Absolutely amazing. He has no clock making experience whatsoever. At 1 p.m. every single day, the ball on top of the Royal Observatory rises. It actually rises, I believe it was 12:55, and then 12:58 it goes all the way to the top, and then at exactly 1 p.m. it drops. And that's so sailors in the ships in the River Thames could set their clocks properly. It's all based on that longitude. You got to read the book. It's very cool. We took the Uber boat back to the City of London. Now, the City of London is in the middle of London. It's only about 1 mile square, but it is different than London. And here we're approaching the Tower Bridge. This is not the London Bridge. The London Bridge is the next bridge, and it's really boring. It's just a 2-lane road, no towers, nothing fancy. That is the Tower Bridge. And the next day, we visited the Tower Bridge. We got to climb up in the structures all the way to the top, and the bridge that goes across the top, you're actually able to walk in, which is super fun. It's a lot of climbing, but again, this was pretty neat. It was pretty amazing to see the view up there, but also just the incredible structure of how this was made. There are 2 bridges up there. You can walk on each side. And yes, there is a glass floor on these. And it is super weird to walk on. Your brain knows that the glass is thick enough, but at the same time, it is like terrifying. From there, we went over to the Sky Garden to wrap up our last evening in London with some amazing views, and here are some of those. There you can see St. Paul's in the top right, and that's the Shard across the river. The next day, we headed down into the Tube, got our train, and we headed to the airport to fly back home. And that was our trip to England.
So there you have it. It was the most memorable trip, and quite honestly, I couldn't possibly share all of it with you. There was so much, this video would have been multiple hours long, but I wanted to share the most important wood turning and woodworking aspects with you guys. One of the things I really wasn't looking forward to on this trip was the food. I have heard from so many people about how bad the food is in England, and you know what? They were all wrong, because we had great food everywhere we went. I don't know what it was, but our food was delicious everywhere. Of course, we had lots of fish and chips, and those were always tasty. We had pies and mash. We had the full British breakfast. And we even did an afternoon tea, which was surprisingly filling. And we just had a great time. There was good food everywhere. And then in London, there are so many different cuisines to choose from, so many different ethnicities, that there's great food everywhere. So we really enjoyed the food in London. Oh yeah, the blood sausage or black pudding, yeah, I didn't care for that so much, but that was kind of it. The other thing that was a lot of fun was public transportation. You know, I grew up in the country, and public transportation is a little bit intimidating, but this was fantastic. Public transportation in London was great. Getting on and off the red buses was a breeze, and they used to have this thing called the Oyster card, which you can use, and it's fine to use that still, but you just use your debit or credit card and you just tap it as you get in the bus. It's super simple, and it couldn't be easier. It was pretty fun. Now, would I want to live there all the time? No, but it was great while we visited, and we really enjoyed ourselves. Now, I want to take a moment to thank everybody, because it was really special getting to know everyone and share this experience together. I want to thank Peter and Cindy. I want to thank Peter and Lee. I want to thank Don and Sharon. I want to thank Samuel and Julie. I want to thank Dan. I want to thank Murray and Corey. I want to thank Bogdan and Eric. I want to thank Richard and Pat. I want to thank Nick and Kathy.
I want to thank our coach driver, Zach. I want to thank my wife, Maggie.
And most importantly, I want to thank Bill and Diane. If it weren't for Bill and Diane, this trip wouldn't happen. Bill planned it out and put together all the woodworking based locations, and Diane did all the travel coordination. Now, she runs a business that is called Airstream Travel in Canada. You might want to check it out. And the rumor has it, Bill's putting together another wood turning trip in the near future, so you might want to check that out. I'll put a link in the description below, and by the way, I put links for pretty much everything you saw in the video in the description below, so you might want to check those out. Do me a favor, if you've enjoyed this video, or if you've got questions about England, or if you really wish you had joined us, leave me a comment below. While you're down there, be sure to click that like button. Thank you. Check out my website, turnawoodbowl.com. Over there, I've got everything you need to know about turning wood bowls, including online courses that you can get started with right now. So check it out, turnawoodbowl.com. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and who knows, there might be more of these in the future. So stay tuned. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy turning.